Um, Many people don't understand why putting something in Tramiel's hands is a bad idea. Anyone who has worked with him with their product understands completely. Anyone who has had a product that he has bought from them understands completely. Jack lived through the bad times of the war in the German prison camps, came out of that with the following philosophy. Business is war. If you're not crushing your opponent, you're doing it wrong. The correct thing to do is squeeze them till they're dead. Never pay them any money, take anything you can. Trick them any way you can. He had a good legal department that would make sure that their contracts had remarkable escape holes in them. The one he did with Epix was astonishing. And it was over breakfast in the Epix negotiations. I moved on to Epix, a game company later on, which was going to get sold to Sam, Jack's son. And when Sam showed up at Epix, several people walked out the door, saying, if he walks in the door, I'm walking out. We understood that. We've been through history with Atari before. We understood how bad it was. They were correct to leave. And those guys just left. Sam was a good kid. I know people who knew him when he was growing up. He was a good kid. His father wasn't okay with that. Brought him to England and taught him how to be the killer boss. Taught him to need the money and the power around him. And Sam, who was basically a good guy, got corrupted by his father, which is too bad, because he was basically a good man before. He tried every once in a while to be a good guy. It didn't work. That's too bad. But giving something to Jack means that Jack will then find a way for him to make a bunch of money and for you to make none. An example of in the early days when there were UARTs, I think it was made by Western Digital, I'm not remembering the name of the company right, Sam ordered a gazillion dollars of parts from these guys and then refused to pay. Then as they went under, he went and bought the company for a nickel on the dollar. Got everything, never had to pay the bill, owned the stuff, and they were all tossed out and gone. At Epix, he made a deal with Epix to pay a certain amount of money for each of the video games that were being done in the handheld device that we made at Epix, and arranged in the contract for him to not have to pay if certain deadlines weren't met, and there was no penalty if he was the reason the deadline wasn't met. So Epix would send him software that he was supposed to verify and test in 7 days or 10 days. He would wait until the last minute of the 10 days and then send it back to Epix with a list of bugs. Epix couldn't fix the list of bugs within the 10 days, so the software went to him and Atari had no money to pay to Epix. They did this several times. Epix was losing money, eventually went bankrupt, and Jack was delighted at how well he'd structured that deal. And that's part of why you don't give stuff to Jack or Sam, because they will just crush you.
Oh my God.
So Leonard, Jack Tramiel's other son, was the technical guy. And he was a very unpleasant man. Although an Amiga guy, Neil Caton, liked Leonard. They were personal friends outside of business and said Leonard was okay outside of business. I never knew him outside of business, so I don't know. But at the engineering department, in the business, no, he was a complete bad news jerk guy. He harassed people. He did stupid stuff. He made your life miserable. He attacked me several times on the standpoint of technology or this or that. And it didn't matter if he was right or wrong. I'm pretty slippery about that, and he was just wrong no matter what he was doing. One day at 3DO, many companies later, we're being sued by Atari over a patent. And Leonard goes into court to testify about him being an expert witness on the technology that enabled this patent. It was my patent. I knew exactly what was in there. He was wrong. But that didn't matter. He gets up there and he's talking about his background in astrophysics and how he's an expert in many of these things. And our lawyer says, you're about as much of astrophysics as the Jetson dog. And it was a very hysterical time. I don't remember the exact words, but it was great. He compared him to the dog. Everybody shut up, and the problem went away. And yes, of course, we won. But Leonard was an unpleasant, not a nice guy at business. Don't know the truth about what he was like as a person on the outside.